The courtroom went quiet as Judge Edith Jones, one of the most respected legal minds in the country, looked directly at Representative Jasmine Crockett. Judge Jones had presided over countless cases with firm control for 37 years. Now, she wanted to talk about something bothering the legal community for months. Representative Crockett, Judge Jones began, her voice serious from years on the bench, your recent public comments about our justice system deeply concern me. Your view of judicial independence shows a basic misunderstanding of core principles. The packed courtroom held its breath. Legal scholars, reporters, and anxious citizens gathered for what should have been a routine legal session. Instead, they witnessed something completely unusual, a direct confrontation between a leading federal judge and a sitting Congresswoman. What happened next stunned everyone. With just a few carefully chosen words, Representative Crockett gave a reply so smart and unexpected that it turned disapproval into respect and silence into applause. This wasn't just a legal rebuke, it became a lesson in respect, humility, and the true meaning of public service. If you want to see more examples of when insight meets humility and old beliefs shed light on our government, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. These are the stories that restore faith in American institutions, and you don't want to miss any of them. Okay, so to really get why this thing matters, first you gotta know about Judge Edith Jones. She's a big deal in the legal world, and this rising star in politics is about to face her judgment. Judge Jones is basically everything good about the U.S. court system. Reagan picked her for the Fifth Circuit way back in '85, and she spent almost 4 decades doing the job really well, with fairness and sticking to the main rules. She's 74 now and has handled over 3,000 cases. Legal experts everywhere respect her because she preps like crazy, stays neutral, and really knows her stuff when it comes to the law. She grew up in Philly with strong values, went to Cornell, and then UT Law, where she was one of only a few women. Throughout her job, people have talked about how smart she is, how fair she is in court, and how serious she is about following the law. People who know her say she's a firm believer in respecting the court's independence if we want things to be fair in America. Lately, Judge Jones has been getting more worried about what she sees as attacks on that independence from different politicians. She's been watching, bummed out, as some elected officials make public statements that seem to question the power and legitimacy of federal courts, mostly when the rulings don't go their way. Rep. Jasmine Crockett jumped onto the national scene as a big voice for justice and rights. At 43, this Texas rep brought her experience as a successful civil rights attorney and community advocate to the House. She's known for fighting for those who don't have a voice and challenging unfairness in the legal system. But lately, Crockett has made some public statements that have raised eyebrows in legal circles. In committee meetings and on TV, she's called out certain court rulings as out of touch and suggested some judges are blocking progress instead of upholding justice. While progressive activists cheered her on, many in the legal world saw her comments as inappropriate attacks on judicial authority. This tension has been building for a while. Legal experts have started writing about how important it is to respect judicial independence. Lawyers groups have put out statements about how to talk about court decisions the right way, and Judge Jones, known for her calm approach, has been thinking about whether to address these concerns publicly. Her chance came at the yearly National Legal Meeting, where judges, lawyers, and sometimes politicians get together to talk about important issues facing the justice system. Rep. Crockett was asked to talk about criminal justice, a request that would soon lead to a moment everyone would remember. Ever see someone's whole view change because of one talk? Share your thoughts in the comments about why it's important for different parts of the government to talk respectfully. We'd love to hear about times you've seen things that changed how you saw authority and respect. Things were going as usual at the morning meeting until Rep. Crockett got up to talk about fixing the legal system. She was excited and had really done her work, talking about how punishments vary, jail conditions, and why we need to change things up. People listened as she laid out her goals and plans, but about 15 minutes in, Crockett got into hotter water. She said a lot of judges are stuck in the past, not getting that how they read the rules has to change with how society sees fairness and equality. A whisper went around the room. Some judges shifted in their seats, looking uneasy. Crockett kept going, her voice getting stronger. She said if judges keep ruling in ways that keep things unequal, we have to ask if they're really being fair or just protecting the way things are. Judge Jones, sitting in the front with other senior legal minds, looked calm, but those who knew her saw a slight tension around her eyes, showing she was getting worried. Crockett went on, saying the courts can't hide behind claims of being independent, when their decisions always favor the powerful over those who aren't. She said respect sometimes has to be earned, not just given because of a title or position. The mood in the room had totally changed. What started as a policy talk was turning into a fight. People in the legal field exchanged glances, sensing something big was about to happen. Judge Jones slowly stood up, drawing everyone's attention. At 74, she still carried herself with the respect and authority she'd gained over years on the bench. The room went silent as she walked towards the stage. Representative Crockett, Judge Jones began, her voice clear and steady. I admire your passion for fixing respecting the legal system, but I feel I have to address some troubling ideas in your talk. Crockett, clearly not expecting this, stood taller at the podium. The two women faced each other, one representing the legislature, the other the judiciary, in a moment that would test the limits of institutional respect. Your recent public statements, Judge Jones continued, including what you said today, show a basic misunderstanding of what judges do in our system. When you suggest judges should rule based on what society wants instead of legal precedent and what the Constitution says, you weaken the very idea of an independent judiciary. The judge's voice remained calm but had a clear strength. Also, saying respect for the courts should depend on whether you agree with our rulings sets a dangerous example that threatens the separation of powers that our founders thought was vital to protecting freedom. Crockett paused, thinking about this unexpected challenge. The room watched closely as she seemed to carefully consider her response. This was the moment that would define not just this exchange, but maybe her whole approach to dealing with other branches of government. Judge Jones, Crockett finally replied, her voice more measured than before. I appreciate you engaging with my concerns directly. Could you help me understand where you think I've gone too far? It was a simple question, but it showed a big shift in attitude. Instead of defending her position or making the conflict worse, Crockett had chosen humility and genuine inquiry. The change was obvious to everyone present. Judge Jones paused, seeming to recognize the importance of Crockett's reply. I think, Rep, your passion for justice is admirable and necessary. But there's a crucial difference between pushing for legal changes through the right legislative channels and suggesting judges should abandon legal principles to achieve social goals. The room remained captivated as these two accomplished women engaged in what was becoming a deep discussion about the nature of justice, power, and institutional respect. Magistrate Jones said, when you question legal decisions because you don't like the outcome, not because of legal reasons, you hurt the public's trust in the legal system. This actually hurts the groups you're trying to help because the rule of law is what protects them from arbitrary power. Crockett listened closely, looking genuinely engaged. Magistrate Jones, she said, I'm starting to see that my frustration with some outcomes might have made me speak inappropriately. Can you help me understand how I can push for change while still respecting the legal system's independence? Then, something unexpected happened. Instead of defending her previous statements, Crockett shocked everyone by saying, Magistrate Jones, I owe you and this court an apology. The room was filled with surprise. In a time when public figures rarely admit mistakes, this genuine moment of humility was remarkable. Lawyers in the audience exchanged surprised glances and court reporters paused their writing, stunned. Over the past few months, Crockett continued, her voice growing stronger, my frustration with what I saw as unfair results led me to make statements that were inappropriate and disrespectful to the court. I now realize that I let my passion for fairness cloud my understanding of basic principles and proper roles. Magistrate Jones's expression softened, though she kept her composure. The courtroom was silent, everyone hanging on Crockett's every word. Even the officers leaned forward slightly to catch every detail of this surprising moment. As a former lawyer, Crockett said, her hands clasped in a gesture of sincere remorse, I should have known better. I should have remembered that the strength of our legal system comes from its independence from political pressure, not from judges who decide based on popular opinion or desired social outcomes. My public statements suggested otherwise, and for that, I am truly sorry. The change was amazing. What began as an adversarial exchange was turning into something much deeper, a real moment of learning and mutual respect. Many older lawyers in the audience later said they were moved to near tears by the sincerity of Crockett's words. Magistrate Jones moved closer to the podium, her dark robes rustling softly in the silence. Her manner shifted from strict authority to something closer to guidance, though she maintained the dignity of her position. Lawmaker Crockett, Magistrate Jones began, your willingness to reconsider your position shows exactly the kind of character our government needs. It takes great courage to admit fault publicly, especially for someone in your position. She paused, letting her words sink in. But more than that, the magistrate continued, your passion for fairness, when properly directed, is vital for our system to improve. The legislative branch has a key role in fixing laws that no longer provide justice. My concern was never with your goals, but with the methods you were suggesting to achieve them. Crockett nodded thoughtfully, her earlier defensiveness completely gone. Magistrate Jones, would you be willing to help me understand how I can better advocate for the changes I believe are needed while still respecting the legal system's independence? It was an extraordinary request, a powerful lawmaker asking a judge for guidance on how to do her job better. The humility was palpable and its effect on the room was immediate. Many observers later remarked that they had never seen such a display of intellectual humility from an elected official. For the first time in their talk, Judge Jones smiled, softening her usual stern look. Senator, I'd love to show you how supporting each other and valuing our roles can work together, not against each other. She moved so she could talk to both Senator Crockett and everyone else, making it clear this was a learning chance for all. The beauty of how we're set up, she said, sounding like a teacher explaining something key, is that each part has its own job, but we all support each other. You find problems with the rules and make them better. We explain and use the rules you make based on basic ideas, not just what we want to happen. She gestured to the basic principles displayed on the wall. If you see court rulings you think are unfair, the right thing to do is see if the rules themselves need to change, not yell at judges for following them. This respects how we're set up, but still lets us make things better. Crockett listened closely, pulling out a small notebook and actually writing things down like a student, not acting like a politician defending a position. Seeing a senator taking notes from a judge made the room buzz again. So, Crockett asked, looking up from her notes, if I see sentences that seem unfair, I should focus on changing the sentencing rules, not criticizing judges who are following the current rules? Exactly, Jones said, her approval obvious. And if you do that while respecting how the courts work, you'll find many judges will welcome thoughtful changes to the law that help us be fair better. We see the problems with the current rules every day, but we have to use them as they're written, not how we wish they were. The judge paused, then added, honestly, I've spent 37 years in this court seeing well-intentioned rules have bad effects. Many of us in the courts would welcome changes to the law that fix these issues, but those changes have to happen the right way, not through politicians trying to sway court decisions. Crockett's eyes lit up with understanding. So you're saying judges and politicians should work together to make the system better, not fight over results? Now you're getting it? Jones replied, clearly pleased. When each part values what the other does, we can work together to make a fairer system while protecting the basic ideas that protect everyone's freedoms. The situation changed entirely. A disagreement turned into a top-notch lesson about how to run things, respect organizations, and how different parts of the government should relate to each other. Legal experts there said this would be something people would study for years. Judge Jones, Crockett said, sounding really sincere. I want to promise publicly that I'll change how I talk about legal stuff. I'll put my energy into improving the law, not attacking the court's power. I hope you hold me to that. She turned to the audience. I also want to say sorry to anyone in the court system who felt I disrespected them with my past comments. You deserve better from those of us who were voted into office. Judge Jones nodded. Rep. Crockett, we hear your promise and appreciate it. And yes, I will hold you to it, not as an enemy, but as someone who cares about how our system works. Everyone there will remember what happened next. The courtroom erupted in applause, which almost never happens in a federal court. It started small, then spread until everyone was standing and clapping. Even the court staff, who are usually very professional, joined in. Judge Jones let it go on for almost a minute before gently raising her hand for quiet. Once it quieted down, she said what many thought was the perfect end to all this. What we saw here today is exactly what the people who created our government wanted, she said, with authority and kindness. Different parts of the government talking politely about their roles, each trying to serve the American people within their legal limits. She looked right at Crockett with real respect. Repeat, you proved today that real leadership means admitting when you're wrong and choosing to grow. Instead of being stubborn, that's exactly the kind of person our nation needs. As things wrapped up, something unheard of happened. Several other judges came up to Crockett, shook her hand, and thanked her for being humble and caring about the law. Legal observers later said it was one of the most amazing shows of respect and learning they'd ever seen. A time when disagreement became teamwork thanks to being humble and talking honestly. The immediate results of that awesome back and forth were pretty rare in the legal world. Quick as a wink, clips of legislator Crockett's apology and Magistrate Jones's kind response were everywhere online, racking up millions of views and mostly positive reactions from all levels of government. What made it so powerful was how unusual it is these days. With so much division and political attacks, here was a lawmaker admitting she messed up and asking a judge for guidance. It felt like things were going back to a time when people respected government and kept their egos in check, something a lot of Americans thought was gone forever. Major news outlets jumped on the story, praising Crockett's humility and Magistrate Jones's wisdom. Legal experts across the board hailed the exchange as a how-to for different government branches to talk to each other with respect, have real conversations, and stick to basic principles. What we saw today was special, said Harvard Law professor Lawrence Tribe. Legislator Crockett showed that sometimes being brave in government means admitting you were wrong, and Magistrate Jones showed how to use legal power with strength and grace. The American Bar Association put out a statement praising both women for showing the best of public service and respect for the system. They said their conversation was a great lesson for all public officials about keeping good relationships between government branches. For Legislator Crockett, this was a turning point in how she does advocacy in public service. She talked openly about how much she learned and how it changed her perspective. Magistrate Jones taught me something really valuable, Crockett said in a later interview. She showed me you can be passionate about fairness without being rude to institutions. My job isn't to strong-arm judges into ruling how I want. It's to make better laws that help them deliver fairness better. When asked why she apologized so publicly, Crockett's answer showed real growth and maturity. Sometimes the best thing a leader can do is admit they were wrong. I realized that what I was doing was actually hurting what I was trying to achieve. Magistrate Jones helped me see that respect for the system and making things fairer aren't enemies. They actually help each other. Judge Judge Jones mentioned that what Rep. Crockett did really helps equality in the U.S. Crockett showed exactly what we need: leaders who can teach, grow, and think about the whole group first, not just themselves. Jones went on to say that splitting up power only works if each group respects what the others do. Today's chat proved that you can respect others while still pushing for big changes. This talk taught people way beyond just those involved. Law schools all over the country began using recordings of it in their programs, showing how groups should work together and why it's important to be polite when different parts of the government talk. Political science teachers said it perfectly, showed how groups should work, each staying independent but still talking nicely about what they do. Maybe most important, it seemed to get other leaders to be nicer when disagreeing. After the courtroom event, many officials thought about how they argue about legal stuff, realizing Crockett's actions had changed their minds. 6 weeks later, Crockett and Jones spoke together at a law conference, explaining how they went from fighting to respecting and working together. They spoke about helping each other, making things better, and respecting groups. Legal experts loved it and said it was a good example of how different parts of the government should work together. Crockett told the crowd that she learned from Judge Jones that to make things better, you have to understand and respect the way things work now. You can't make groups better by disrespecting them. Judge Jones then said Crockett had grown as a leader. Rep. Crockett proved that you can strongly support things and still respect the system. Since they talked, her work in the legislature has been more successful and respectful of the rules. Their talk kept making waves in legal and government circles. New lawyers and future government leaders pointed to it as a great example of how to handle mistakes gracefully and turn conflict into cooperation through honesty and real talk. A top law professor said, "What Judge Jones and Representative Crockett showed us wasn't just about professional respect. It was a great lesson in how American democracy should work when people value principles over ego and learning over winning." Their conversation reminded people that our democratic institutions get stronger, not by avoiding disagreements, but by dealing with them respectfully, humbly, and with a sincere commitment to basic values. In a time when such examples were rare, what happened in that courtroom gave hope that wisdom, respect, and unity could still win. Judge Edith Jones' words on respecting judicial independence and Jasmine Crockett's response didn't just shock the courtroom. It reminded us that American democracy works best when our leaders are ready to learn, grow, and put unity above personal pride. If this story of wisdom, humility, and professional respect has renewed your faith in American leadership, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. We're committed to bringing you more stories of genuine character and principles in action. Let us know in the comments what other examples of professional respect and real leadership you'd like to see in our future videos.